You're listening to the Lazy Entrep podcast, productivity, automation, and outsourcing tips so that you can work less and live more. Here is your host, Jason Dulé.
Sometimes the screening and interview process isn't enough to make sure that we hire the right person for the job. I remember when I had an opening for a writer for one of my blogs, and there were over 30 applicants for the post. My first layer of screening applicants was by going through their cover letters and profiles. I mean, if they couldn't write impressive cover letters, I didn't want to hire them for a writing job, did I? My second layer of interviewing was reviewing their sample articles. Now, this took longer, but at least I was reviewing their actual writing copy, right? And finally, I did chat interviews as my final and third layer. Surprisingly, some of the applicants whom I thought were good writers weren't very good at answering questions, so these applicants got thrown out immediately. In the end, I had one writer who I was confident would do a kick-ass job for the blog. I assigned him a handful of blog posts to write, and he got back to me around a week later. Guess what? They were horrible. They were not even okay or not bad. They were absolutely horrible. And I thought to myself, how could this be the same guy who submitted a very well-written sample article to me the week before? I thought I had a pretty good interview and screening process at this point. So how did this guy go through my 3 layers of screening? And as I've learned, you really can't prevent this from happening. Some people are really good at the interview, but once you assign them work, it's a whole nother story. So I developed a 4th layer of screening to prevent this from happening again. After reviewing cover letters, sample work, and interviewing, I'd hire the top 3 candidates to do a small task for me. And yes, this is work that I'd be paying for. I know some clients ask freelancers to essentially do free work for them, and I'm not a huge fan of this simply because you get what you pay for. Believe me, you'll repel top quality people if you ask them to do work for free. Plus, you don't want to create a bad impression with one of your team members before you even hire them. Alright, by hiring my top 3 candidates for a small task, I'd be able to gauge their performance under what I'd call normal working conditions. During interviews, most candidates put their best foot forward to get the job. But once they actually do get hired, they may slack off and return to their norm. So I also don't tell them that this task can lead to more work in the future. Now, this small task prevents this whole best foot forward thing from happening. And also I can measure their behavior, communication, and actual work output with a small task. Things I wouldn't be able to do in an interview. From these 3 candidates, I'd finally be able to make a confident and much more informed decision about who to hire. Sure, it's a little more expensive to hire people with this small task 4th layer of interviewing since you'd be paying multiple candidates. But in my honest opinion, you'd be saving a ton of money in the long run by making sure you hire the best candidate to be part of your team. Now, if you want to know more about hiring virtual assistants, I have a free ultimate guide to hiring VAs. Just head on over to lazyentrep.com/VA to get your free copy. Thank you for listening to the Lazy Entrep podcast. If you found these tips helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you left a review on iTunes. Even if it's just a couple of words, it'd be a huge help. If you're using an iPhone or iPad, you can click on the Lazy Entrep logo to open the show notes, and you'll see the link to give us a quick review. Otherwise, you can find a link to review us on our show notes page or on our website, lazyentrep.com. Till next time.